Hello again, welcome. A new video that I've decided to record based on my awareness that there's a particular aspect of my stress management training that is very, very important, and not a lot of people seem to be aware of it. It's about understanding something called tend and befriend. We all know about fight, flight, and freeze, but there's actually two other aspects to amygdala responses and stress responses. So I thought, may as well make a video and allow my clients to be aware of this. Also, very good if you're a professional working in coaching or education or stress management. Actually, I would say it's good for humans in general. So, I'm Linda Heffernan, behavioral scientist, executive leadership coach, stress management professional, cognitive behavioral hypnotherapist. So, what I'm going to share with you might change how you understand your response to stress or your client's response to stress. As I said, most of us have heard about the fight or flight response and the freeze response. It's the automatic reaction in the amygdala that our body as well has when we're under pressure. But what if I told you that this model is incomplete? That it was based almost entirely on research done on men, and that there's another response that many of us experience, particularly women. Let's talk about something called tend and befriend, and why understanding it matters for your safety, your well-being, and your career. So, for nearly a century, we've understood stress through the lens of fight, flight, freeze. And this concept was introduced by a physiologist named Walter Cannon in the 1930s. And here's the thing, it's not wrong, it's very accurate, but it's incomplete. Okay. Why, Linda? Because when all of the almost early research was done, and actually most stress research for a decade after was done, it was conducted exclusively on male subjects. Female subjects were often left out because researchers considered women's hormonal cycles too complicated to work with. They wanted clean, consistent data, so they just excluded women from the studies entirely. And I have friends who work in medical research and who are consultants in medical research, and they tell me that is across the board in almost every part of research and science. Women have been excluded because of hormones. But what happens when you study only half the population? You miss a crucial part of the picture. So I want to introduce you to what has been discovered since then, tend and befriend. In the year 2000, Dr. Shelley Taylor, a psychologist at UCLA, and her research team proposed something groundbreaking. They called it tend and befriend. They noticed that whilst the physiological stress response, the racing heart, the adrenaline, might be similar for everyone, the behavioral responses were often very different, especially for women. So, Linda, what is tend and befriend? Well, it's a two-part stress response. Tending means nurturing activities, protecting yourself and those you care about, particularly children. It's about creating safety and reducing distress through caregiving behaviors. It's about your distress and it's about their potential distress. Befriending means creating and strengthening social connections. It's reaching out, building networks, and seeking support from others during times of stress. And there's a science behind it. Now, you might be wondering, what's happening in our bodies that's causing this different response? And the answer lies in our biology, specifically in hormones, what all of those male scientists have been afraid to explore are actually very important here. When we're stressed, our bodies release a hormone called oxytocin. And you might have heard oxytocin called the bonding hormone or the love hormone. It's the same hormone released during childbirth, breastfeeding, and when we hug someone that we care about. Here's what's fascinating. In women, oxytocin works together with estrogen, to promote these tending and befriending behaviors. So instead of just gearing up to fight or run away, the stress response can actually make us want to connect with others and care for those around us. This makes evolutionary sense. If you're caring for children or vulnerable family members, abandoning them to fight, flight, or freeze might put everyone at greater risk. Instead, protecting them and calling on your social network for support increases everyone's chances of survival. And what does this look like, Linda, in everyday life? Okay, so just think about it now for a moment, please, about how you respond when you are stressed. Do you feel the urge to check in on loved ones? Do you want to talk through your problems with your friends? Do you find yourself cleaning, organizing, or taking care of your space or others? Do you reach out for support rather than isolating yourself? Do you join groups or communities when facing challenges? These are all tend and befriend responses. And perhaps you've noticed this during difficult times. When something stressful happens, some people's first instinct is to call a friend, gather the family, or find their community. That's tend and befriend in action. And here's something important to understand. Both women and men can have a tend and befriend response. This isn't about rigid gender roles. It's about recognizing that we have more options in how we respond to stress than we were previously taught. It just so happens that women are more inclined to index into a tend and befriend response. Now, there's something actually really important here to talk about. Whilst tend and befriend is a natural biological response, it can sometimes work against us, especially in dangerous or abusive situations. Research has shown that the tend and befriend response can actually cause people to stay in abusive relationships when they really should leave. Think about it. If your stress response is to nurture, to maintain relationships, to try to fix things through caring and connection, what happens when the source of your stress is the relationship itself? You might find yourself trying to tend to an abusive partner, hoping you can love them into changing. You might find yourself prioritizing keeping the family together over your own safety, or making excuses for harmful behavior because you're biologically driven to maintain the bond, or feeling guilty about the idea of leaving even when you've been harmed. This is crucial to understand. The same response that helps us survive and thrive in healthy communities can trap us in dangerous ones. The tend and befriend response evolved to protect us in situations where banding together increases safety. But in an abusive relationship, staying and trying to befriend or appease the abuser does not increase safety. It often makes things more dangerous. If you are in a relationship, or if you have a client who is in a relationship where you or they feel afraid, controlled, or harmed physically, emotionally, psychologically, or sexually, your tend and befriend response might be telling you to stay, to try harder, to keep nurturing. But, my friends, that's when we need to recognize this response for what it is: a biological pattern that made sense in our evolutionary past but doesn't serve you in this particular situation. This is not weakness. This is biology working against your best interests. If you're in a situation where you need support, please reach out to domestic abuse services in your country. Most countries have 24-hour helplines, or a quick internet search for domestic abuse helpline, and your country name will connect you with local resources. You deserve safety and support. Understanding Tend-and-Befriend also has a workplace impact, and there's some positive here. It helps us make sense of what happens in our professional lives. And here, the picture is complex. There are real benefits and real costs. But let's start with the positives. Now, in the workplace, Tend and Befriend can translate into powerful advantages. It can be collaborative problem solving. The instinct to reach out and work together can lead to innovative solutions and stronger teams. Building supportive networks. Research shows that women who build strong networks with other women are more likely to advance in their careers. These connections provide mentorship opportunities and mutual support. Increased engagement. Studies have found that 63% of women who report having a close friend at work are engaged in their jobs, compared to only 29% of women who don't have an office friend. It can lead to better stress management. Work friendships help metabolize stress. When you have people you trust at work, you're better able to handle workplace challenges. It can lead to enhanced team performance. Teams with strong relationships show better collaboration. They show better communication and what researchers call psychological safety. The feeling that you can speak up, take risks, and be yourself without fear. These aren't small benefits. They're genuine advantages that can make work more productive, more innovative, and frankly, more bearable. But there is a workplace impact. There are some hidden costs, and we don't talk often enough about the hidden costs. The same Tend and Befriend response that helps women build strong workplace relationships also leads to what researchers call emotional labor. And this labor falls disproportionately on women's shoulders. Again, what is emotional labor? It's the work of managing emotions, your own and others, to maintain workplace harmony, and it includes mediating conflicts between colleagues, providing emotional support when someone's struggling, managing everyone's feelings in stressful situations, planning office celebrations and remembering birthdays. I once started a job and I was told in an all-male team, bar me, that it was my responsibility to take charge of remembering everybody's birthdays and recognizing them. I refused. I was told I wasn't a team player. We also can be involved in being the listening ear for colleagues' problems, in creating and maintaining positive team morale. And here's the critical part. This work is often invisible, unrecognized, and uncompensated. The research on this is sobering. Studies show that women who feel obliged to hide feelings of agitation at work are more likely to report occupational burnout, especially women. This constant emotional labor leads to exhaustion, stress, anxiety, depression, and job dissatisfaction. What's that doing to your attrition at work? The mental load can cause people to feel disconnected from themselves. You're managing emotions so constantly that you lose touch with your own feelings internally. Women are more likely to report physical and emotional exhaustion related to paid work. And here's a cruel irony. If women are assumed to be more susceptible to burnout because of this emotional labor, they may be passed over for challenging assignments and promotions. So the very behaviors that make you a good colleague, the tending, the connecting, the emotional support, can become an invisible burden that holds you back and burns you out. And just imagine what this might feel like for somebody who's in a profession such as therapy, medicine, counseling, or coaching, where they're already listening to people's difficult and challenging emotional experiences, and then maybe in the workplace environment, they have to show up tending and befriending. What's that going to do for stress levels, tiredness levels, potential burnout? And there's another side. When your support network can't meet your needs, I need to address something from a personal and professional perspective as a coach and a therapist. This is about the limits of tend and befriend, and it's something that affects both sides of the equation. When you're stressed and your tend and befriend response kicks in, you reach out to your network. That's natural and healthy. But here's why we need to talk about this honestly. The people you reach out to, your friends, your colleagues, and even your family, cannot always meet your needs. Sometimes what you're dealing with requires professional support, and there's no shame in that. In fact, recognizing when you need a therapist or coach rather than a friend is a sign of maturity and self-awareness. We, as therapists, are in some cases obliged to always have our own therapy, our own supervision, and our own mentoring to make sure that we are psychologically clean, safe, sound, and supported. And good coaches do the same. They have mentoring. Here's why all of this matters. Personal and professional boundaries exist for good reasons. As a coach and therapist, I have boundaries that I cannot breach, even with friends. If a friend comes to me seeking support or advice outside of a professional setting, I cannot work with them in the way that I would with a client. The relationship dynamics are different. The ethical considerations are different. The boundaries must be different. And when those lines get blurred, it's stressful for both of us. The emotional demand on your support network is real. When you repeatedly turn to the same people with your stress, you're placing an emotional load on them. If those people happen to be in caring professions, therapists, coaches, counselors, healthcare workers, consider what their day looks like. We're listening to stressed people all day long. We're holding space for pain, anxiety, trauma, and struggle. We're doing emotional labor professionally. And when we finish our workday and a friend reaches out needing the same kind of support, we face a difficult position. We care about our friends. We want to be there, but we're already emotionally depleted. We have limits too. We may have other responsibilities, our own families with their own needs. This doesn't mean don't reach out to your friends. It just means think about how and whom. Be mindful of frequency and intensity. Occasional support is friendship. Constant crisis management might need professional help. Diversify your support network. Don't rely on one or two people to meet all your emotional needs. Recognize when it's beyond a friend's capacity. If you're dealing with trauma, mental health issues, or complex life situations, a professional is better to understand you and is better equipped to help you. Understand professional boundaries. If your friend is a therapist, coach, or counselor, or if a family member is a therapist, coach, or counselor, don't expect them to just help you quickly outside of a professional relationship, or insist on their support even when they create boundaries. These boundaries are there to protect both of you. Make it reciprocal. Friendship should involve mutual support, not one person always in crisis while the other always provides care. The tend and befriend response is powerful, but it works best when support flows both ways. Professional help is sought when needed, boundaries are respected, the emotional labor is acknowledged and not taken for granted, and your friendship is respected too, or your family connection. Do not project, do not impose, do not use passive aggression or victim mindset to them. If you find yourself constantly in crisis, reaching out to the same people repeatedly, that's a signal, folks. It might be time to seek professional support rather than continuing to lean on your personal network. So where does this leave us? Okay, understanding tend and befriend isn't about celebrating it uncritically or rejecting it entirely. It's about awareness, recognizing when this response serves you and when it doesn't. For your personal safety, if you are in a situation where you feel afraid or harmed, recognize that your biological urge to tend and maintain the relationship might be working against you. You might need to override that instinct and choose fight or flight instead. Please. Also, for workplace well-being, yes, build those connections. Yes, collaborate and support others, but also set boundaries. You don't have to be everyone's emotional support system. Recognize emotional labor. Notice when you're doing invisible work and consider whether it's been fairly distributed. Advocate for yourself. Don't let being nice and collaborative mean you never push for your own advancement. And share the load. Emotional labor shouldn't fall only on women. When men can and should participate in creating positive workplace culture. In fact, it's a requirement of modern leadership and modern humanity. For expanding your options, remember that you have more than one stress response available to you. Sometimes tending and befriending is perfect. Sometimes you need to fight for what you deserve. Sometimes you need to flee a bad situation. And sometimes you need to freeze and just pause. The key is conscious choice rather than automatic reaction. Some practical strategies maybe. So how can you use this knowledge practically, Linda? Okay. When you are feeling stressed, ask yourself, is this a situation where connection will help me, or is it keeping me stuck? Am I tending to others at the expense of my own well-being? Is my urge to maintain harmony preventing me from addressing a real problem? At work, notice patterns. Are you always the one organizing, mediating, and supporting? Calculate the cost. Is your emotional labor leaving you exhausted? Redistribute. Can some of this work be shared with others or eliminated altogether? Speak up. If you're doing invisible labor, make it visible. Notice victim mindset. If you are feeling angry about any of this, how much of this is your choice? Is there any agency? What needs to shift in your mind to make the situation more realistic and more tolerable? Be accountable. So also then in relationships, healthy relationships should feel reciprocal. If you're doing all the tending, something is wrong. Social support is wonderful when it flows both ways. Connection is powerful, but not if it's trapping you in harm. When reaching out for support, check in with yourself. Is this a friendship conversation or do I need professional help? Notice if you're always in crisis mode with the same people. Consider whether you're respecting other people's capacity and boundaries. Remember that therapists, coaches, and counselors in your personal life have professional boundaries that must be honored, and they have personal capacity issues. Invest in professional support when needed. It's not a failure, it's self-care. And build resilience. Maintain your social networks even when you're not in crisis. Don't wait until you're desperate to reach out for support. Join communities that give you a sense of belonging, but also practice saying no, setting limits, and protecting your energy. So, bottom line, my friends, you have more options to manage stress than you might have realized. Fight, flight, freeze, and tend and befriend. These are all part of the human stress response toolkit. Understanding tend and befriend specifically helps you see why the old models don't quite fit your experience, why you might stay in situations you should leave, why you're exhausted from invisible office work or work in the profession, why connection is both a superpower and sometimes a trap. Your stress response is complex, adaptive, and ultimately designed to help you survive and thrive. Understanding it better, including its limitations and costs, puts you in the driver's seat. You have agency, you have control. So that's it. Tend and befriend. Thank you for watching. Well done for working on your growth mindset. And remember, reaching out is a sign of strength, not weakness. Know who to reach out to. Is it a friend? Is it a professional? But you know what's also a sign of strength? Knowing when to walk away. Thank you. Thank you for paying attention to your needs and your growth. Look after yourself.